as a child, I was haunted. I had night terrors every single night, and without fail, the same spirit would show up standing on the one side of my bed, and it would yank the blankets off my bed, and I would wake up paralyzed and frozen and like almost afraid to breathe. And no one could explain it, but I knew deep down I wasn't just dreaming. And I've carried this my entire life, terrified of the dark, terrified of my own intuition, until one day I decided I wasn't going to be afraid anymore. And I made it my life's work to take my power back. And what I've discovered shook me. What's in your field affects your mind, your emotions, and it can distort your truth. So if you've done all the healing work and still feel drained and anxious or even emotionally hijacked, it might not actually be you. It might be something within your energetic field. And no, not all of your thoughts are actually yours. This is the part that no one really talks about, the part that makes you doubt your own sanity, the part where you feel hijacked by energy that doesn't even feel like you. It's, if you're constantly feeling drained and anxious for no reason, or you have looping thoughts that feel intrusive, this series will explain why, because spirit attachments are real. And if you're watching this, that's not random. You're either carrying one or you've been impacted by someone who is. Now, I know this topic triggers a lot of fear within people, and that is by design because fear keeps you small, it keeps you frozen, and fear is how these energies stay hidden. But here's the thing, you don't need fear, you need clarity because once you see what's in your field, you can clear it, and knowledge ends fear. So before we dive in, my name is Jen Scott. Welcome to my channel. I'm a quantum alchemy mentor and business energetic strategist, and I help healers and spiritual entrepreneurs clear what traditional healing cannot touch, the hidden blocks, subconscious sabotage, and spirit level interference, which is really blocking you from reaching that next level. And I've had so many people ask me, how do I actually connect with the subconscious? How do I clear spirit or dark entity attachments? Like for real, how do you do this work? And they really want to know the mechanics behind it and how it actually works. So that's why I made this series, to get you straight to the truth, to give you the tools I use every day to shift energy at the deepest levels. Because once you know what's actually living in your energetic field, you stop being afraid of it and you start to take your power back. Now, I've seen clients who unknowingly have carried spirits and entities for decades. Some of them picked them up during childhood, some of them after a spiritual initiation that went sideways, others through unprotected energy exchanges, or even from other healers. And I've been there too. I lived through betrayal and abandonment and spiritual attacks that nearly broke me. But the turning point wasn't when I cleared my chakras. It was when I stopped bypassing what was actually within my energetic field. So this is for the ones who've done the work but still feel off. The healers, the intuitives, right? The ones who've asked, why does this keep happening to me? And I want you to know that you're not broken and you're not imagining things. You're just energetically sensitive, and that is a gift. But that gift needs discernment because your light draws in everything, okay, including the shadows. So In this video, we're going deep into spirit attachments, what they are, how they get in, how to tell if you're carrying one, and why the new era of healers must learn to clear them if we're going to truly lead the next wave of transformation. So, what are spirit attachments, right? So, spirit attachments are non-physical beings that link into your energy field, often without your conscious awareness. They feed off of your life force, they distort your perception, and block your intuitive clarity. So, let's break this down. Um, and talk about a few different kinds of spirits. There are earthbound spirits. These can be less negative, and these are souls who have simply just not crossed over, right? So they often stay tethered to the physical realm through either a traumatic event, right? Addictions or emotional unfinished business, and they can attach to people, places, and or even family lines. Interdimensional beings or parasitic energies. These are energetic entities that are not of this earthly plane. They often cord into the body's weakest points, right? Especially trauma sites or even into your physical organs and glands that are holding suppressed emotions. I've even seen where some of these even pair with physical parasites within the body, which is why detoxing doesn't necessarily always work. You always have to clear that energetic layer as well. Um, Vampiric entities, demonic beings, right? These aren't movie monsters. They're frequencies that feed off fear and shame and or spiritual distortion. And some of them are pretty ancient and some were formed through collective shadow, right? So they can shape shift and manipulate dreams and loop intrusive thoughts to keep you cycling in a low vibrational frequency. And let's talk about the collective shadow constructs as well. So some are constructs, right? Energetic constructs programmed, created by the human trauma and belief systems. So think of them like psychic malware. They live in the unconscious field and replicate through fear-based groupthink. And sometimes you can even make unconscious contracts with these energies, usually during some type of traumatic event or spiritual crisis, even a dark night of the soul. And that doesn't make it your fault, it makes you human. So this is not about fear, this is about power. And you don't need to fight the dark, you just need to stop feeding it. And that all starts with awareness. Now, spirit attachments don't just knock and want to come on in, all right? They wait for the moment your guards drop. And they slip through the cracks like smoke through a keyhole. Okay, so they feed off of your chaos, your heartbreak, and your moments of collapse. So whenever you're carrying unprocessed trauma, looping in shame, or soaked in, suppressed rage, they don't just sense it. That's how they enter through it. So they find those weak points, those tears in your energetic field, those distortions in your resonance, and they burrow in, feeding and influencing, and sometimes even trying to just like live vicariously through you, right? And not because, not all of them is because they're evil, but because they're desperate to feel alive again. So here's how they get in, right? Through trauma, betrayal, heartbreak within your energetic field, through rage or grief that you never fully let yourself feel, spiritual rituals or energy work done without proper protection. This one's huge. Manipulative relationships that erode your sense of self. sexual encounters that feel off, but you override it anyways, childhood trauma, violations that just blew open your field, and even generational trauma and ancestral contracts that are left unsealed. But it doesn't stop there. Sometimes you're not even the one carrying it, it's someone close to you, but what happens is the energy then can cord to you as well. So that friend who always leaves you anxious and emotionally raw and like exhausted after, right? You're not crazy. You're just sensitive to that energy. So either that person is an energy vampire, meaning they can't generate their own energy, or they may be unconsciously hosting vampiric entities, right? And they're just simply feeding off of your light. Now, let me be clear. These beings are not more powerful than you, but they are opportunistics, right? And if they don't know, if you don't know what's influencing you, you can carry them for decades and you can even pass them down your lineage. This is how deep this goes. Now, I've had clients do full body detoxes, parasite cleanses, fast, somatic healing, and still feel off. Why? Because they cleared maybe the physical layers, but not the energetic parasite feeding on the unresolved emotions beneath it. So when we removed the frequency, the original wound that created the opening, the shift was immediate. Okay, and then there are the ones who create portals and dimensional gateways and they pass through at will, right? Some come only at night, others stay with you all day, especially if you're in survival mode and your field's cracked open or, you're unconsciously leaking energy. So healers and light workers, hear this. You are not a target because you're weak, because they love healers and light workers. You're a target because you are powerful. Your light radiates frequency that heals timelines, and within you, you carry codes that can shift the collective consciousness, which is exactly why some of these entities try to latch onto your power and hijack your thoughts and distort your frequency and loop those intrusive patterns that convince you you're the problem. It's kind of like psychological warfare on a soul level, okay? And now let's talk about some of the signs that some of these things might be in your field, okay? So you're exhausted even after rest. You spiral emotionally, then feel guilty about it or shame afterwards. You have thought loops that feel intrusive or are self-destructive. You feel disconnected from your intuition, or it feels foggy, like you can't hear yourself or trust yourself. Sleep paralysis, nightmares, or this is one I get a lot from my clients, a sensation of being watched. You also can dim your light and hide your voice and feel unsafe when you do try to shine your light, okay? And if you've done all of the healing work, but something still feels off, okay, you're not imagining things, you're sensitive, and that sensitivity is not a flaw, it's your radar. But that radar needs protection, tools, and discernment. And mainstream energy work, it teaches you to manage the symptoms, but never shows you what's feeding on them. Because these entities don't just hover around your auric field, they infiltrate your thoughts, your emotions, your resonance, your belief systems, right? They feed on unworthiness, scarcity codes, spiritual fear, abandonment, betrayal wounds, and that victim rescuer patterns, okay? So they're masters at mimicking your inner voice so you second guess your power, your purpose, and your truth. And white light visualization, I'm sorry, will not cut it, okay? They can easily bypass that and deflect that in a heartbeat. Why is that? Because these aren't just surface level energies, these are root frequency intrusions. So, how do you clear them for good? Okay, so to actually clear these attachments, you need to identify what you're dealing with. So, entity, each entity will respond differently, just kind of like in the movies. You need to know who your opponent is. They often search, like, what is the name of this spirit, right? You don't need to know the name, but what vibrational frequency are you working with? What type? Right? Is it a vampiric entity? Is it a demonic entity? Is it just an earthbound spirit that needs help crossing over? Then you need to find the origin of the trauma or that fractured your field in the first place that allowed these openings, right? So you track the wound, track the entry point so that you can clear away all of that energy from all layers of your being, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, so that this doesn't keep happening to you anymore, okay? So they can't find their way back. And you seal the field, and that's when the release becomes permanent. Lots of people clear the entity, but they don't clear any of the other things that caused it in the first place, right? So the pattern might just keep repeating. Then it's really important to rewire that pattern or belief that kept your energy open in the first place, okay? That distorted your energetic field. And once you do that, end of story. So for years, I carried betrayal trauma. I did all of the healing, all of the journaling, all of the rituals, but I still betrayed myself daily by overgiving, self-abandoning, saying yes when I meant to say hell no. And that really distorted my field. And that's what these energies feed on. And it wasn't until I cleared the root frequency and then changed the behavior that kept me leaking power that these intrusions stopped showing up. Okay? So, just like there's beings of light, there are beings who lack light, therefore feed on yours. But here's the part no one tells you is when you remember who the hell you are, and when you shift the resonance in your field, and when you stop leaking energy and start living in your truth, they lose access. And when that happens, game over. So, have you ever felt off and couldn't explain it? Like something was with you that wasn't even yours? If so, drop a yes in the comments. Please share your experience because you're definitely not alone. And the more we speak about it, the less power it holds. Now, in the next video, I'll show you how unhealed trauma rips open your aura and why that's the entry point for spirit attachments. It's one of the biggest gaps in spiritual protection and the reason so many healers still feel blocked. So make sure to subscribe to watch that next video.